We're restructuring to maximize shareholder value, he announced in our brief meeting. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately. My name is Ethan Riek. For 14 years, I built the Eastern Division of Northrise Apparel from the ground up into its top-performing unit. Not with flashy presentations or corporate jargon, but through trust, consistency, and honest work. I personally managed our key accounts, knew each client's concerns, their families, their quirks. Those relationships brought in $4.2 million in annual contracts. The new CEO, Brandon, had been with us just 8 weeks. Harvard Business School, buzzed haircut, designer suits. He'd never once asked me how we'd grown 18% year over year while other divisions stalled. Never questioned why Suncoast Financial and Vector Properties, our 2 biggest accounts, insisted I be on every quarterly call. When security walked me to my office to pack up, I noticed Alicia from HR couldn't even make eye contact. She'd been with the company 15 years longer than I had. Thomas, our CFO, passed by and paused. Ethan, he started but stopped. Just gave my shoulder a quick pat and kept walking. I packed quietly. Family photos, the fishing trophy the Vector team gave me after our company retreat, a handwritten note from Diane at Sunos thanking me for pushing through a last-minute order when her team was in crisis. 14 years of memories, boxed in 20 minutes. I nodded to the guard and walked to my car without drama. In my rearview mirror, I watched the glass tower shrink behind me. For the first time in 14 years, I wasn't carrying the weight of 30 employees or millions in contracts. That should have felt freeing, but it didn't. It felt wrong. I started at Northrise when it was still a warehouse operation in Charlotte. Back then, we were trying to crack into corporate uniform contracts with small banks and regional clinics. The Eastern Division was bleeding money when they brought me in. I had 9 employees and a single directive: fix it or shut it down. In those early years, I personally drove to every potential client within a 100-mile radius. I learned what frustrated them: late shipments, sizing issues, inconsistent quality. I solved every one of those problems. My team grew from 9 to 15, then 25. We moved into better space. I promoted Janice from customer service to account manager because of the way she handled angry clients. I hired Keith straight out of design school because his mock-ups solved issues we hadn't even identified yet. My son Dylan was 12 when I started at Northrise. He's 26 now, an architect in Seattle. My wife, Jennifer, stood by me through every late night, every weekend trip to save an account. It's worth it, I tell her. We're building something that lasts. She believed me. 3 CEOs came and went during my time. Each valued what we'd built. We'd gone from a regional vendor to a national name. And the Eastern Division led that charge year after year. The merger changed everything. Kestrel Group bought us out and brought in their board. At first, I wasn't worried. Numbers speak for themselves. But soon the cracks appeared. Then Brandon Kerr arrived with his consultants and spreadsheets. They didn't understand what made this business work. They talked in meetings about reducing acquisition costs, but never about keeping clients. 2 weeks before I was let go, Brandon asked for a breakdown of all major accounts. I compiled it. Everything, contract values, renewal dates, growth opportunities, was included in that report. What I didn't include, because you can't quantify it on a spreadsheet, was how I'd attended the funeral of Suncoast procurement director's father, or how I personally inspected Vector's first major order at 2 a.m. to make sure everything was perfect for their company-wide rollout. When Brandon's assistant scheduled our meeting for just 10 minutes, I knew. I'd seen this happen before, to others. I just never thought it would happen to me. The morning after I was let go, I sat in my home office, staring at my phone. No messages from work, former work. Jennifer brought me coffee and gently squeezed my shoulder. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "They don't understand what they've done," I said. I wasn't angry. That surprised me most. I felt a strange clarity I hadn't experienced in years. I opened my personal laptop and looked at my contacts, not the company CRM, but my own files. Names, numbers, personal emails. 14 years of genuine connections. The first call came at 9:30 a.m. Diane from Suncoast Financial. "Ethan, We just got a mass email about organizational changes at Northrise. Please tell me you're not affected. I took a breath. I was let go yesterday. The silence on the line said more than words. Who's taking over your accounts? She asked. They didn't say. I assumed someone for Brandon's new team. Another pause. Our contract renewals in 6 weeks. I need to be honest. The board only renewed with Northrise last time because of you. Your pricing was higher than competitors, but you always delivered. You solved problems before we even saw them. I didn't say anything right away. In the background, I could hear her tapping her pen on the desk, a habit she had when weighing big decisions. I need to talk to my team, she finally said. Can I call you back on this number? Of course. After the call, I went downstairs and sat at the kitchen table. Jennifer was making lunch. You okay? She asked. I nodded. I think I will be. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Keith, my design lead at Northrise. Brandon called an emergency meeting. Asked about contact info for your accounts. No one's giving him straight answers. What's going on? I didn't reply. Just set the phone down. That afternoon, Harold from Vector Properties called. Then Michael from Eastern Bank. Then Stephanie from Bright Healthcare Systems. The conversations all followed the same rhythm. Shock at my departure, concern about the future, questions about their contracts. I answered honestly. I didn't badmouth Northrise. I didn't attack Brandon. I just gave facts. Yes, I'd been terminated. No, I wasn't informed of any transition plan. Yes, I was exploring my next steps. By the end of the day, I had 5 missed calls for Brandon Kerr. I didn't return them. That night, I opened my laptop, not to check work emails, but to make my own spreadsheet. Not for clients or revenue targets, but for possibilities. Companies that had tried to poach me over the years. Competitors who might value someone with my background. Even the idea of starting my own consulting firm. For 14 years, I'd built bridges for Northrise Apparel. Now I had to decide whether to burn those bridges or build new ones for myself. I chose the latter. 3 days after the termination, Brandon's texts became calls. I let them go to voicemail. On the 4th day, I finally answered. Ethan, we need to talk, he said, his tone tighter than the last time we spoke. Some concerns have come up with several key accounts. I'm sure you are. My team can handle it, I replied. That's just it. Suncoast is threatening to pull their contract. They're saying they only work with us because of you. I watched a cardinal land on the feeder outside my window. That's their decision to make. Look, maybe we moved too quickly with these restructuring changes. The board is concerned about the potential revenue impact. We could discuss a consulting arrangement to help with the transition. For a moment, I considered it. A consulting gig would have been easy money while I figured out my next move. But something felt off about his sudden shift in tone. I appreciate the offer, but I need some time. I'll think about it. That afternoon, I met Jerry Campbell for coffee. He'd been Northrise's CFO before the merger, pushed out just like me. He still had friends on the inside. Brandon's in full panic mode, Jerry said, stirring his coffee. Apparently Suncoast and Vector both sent formal letters saying they won't renew their contracts. Did they say why? Loss of key relationship personnel. Leadership instability. Pretty much corporate speak for we only trusted Ethan. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of validation and concern for the team I'd left behind. There's more, Jerry continued. Brandon told the board you're sabotaging the company, calling clients and telling them to leave. I set my cup down. I haven't told anyone to do anything. I've answered their calls and been honest. That's it. That's not how Brandon's painting it. He's building a case that you violated your termination agreement. Might even try to claw back your severance. On my drive home, Brandon called again. This time I let it ring out. When I listened to the voicemail later, his tone had changed completely. Ethan, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We value everything you've built here. The board has authorized me to offer you a senior VP position. Better title, better package than before. Call me back, we should talk. That evening, Daniel Thompson called. He was the CEO of Summit Ridge Outfitters, a smaller competitor who tried to recruit me twice before. I heard what happened at Northrise, he said. Their loss. My offer still stands. But I'd like to sweeten it. Senior VP, equity stake, and complete control over your client relationships. I told him I needed a few days to consider all my options. That night, I receive an email from Northrise's legal department. The language was sharp, accusing me of violating non-solicitation agreements and implying potential litigation if I didn't stop interfering with company relationships. I forwarded the email to my lawyer friend Paul Henderson without comment. The next morning he called. "This legal threat is paper thin," he said. "They're trying to scare you. But I checked your contract. You never signed a non-solicitation agreement. The standard non-compete just prevents you from joining a direct competitor for 6 months. It doesn't stop clients from choosing to follow you. I remembered signing it 14 years ago under the previous CEO. This just prevents you from taking our training and immediately jumping ship," he told me back then. Nothing about clients. So I've done nothing wrong? Not legally. In fact, if they escalate, we can counter for wrongful termination. The abrupt nature of your exit, lack of transition, courts don't love that. I thanked him and hung up, just as an email from Janice at Northrise arrived in my inbox. Subject line: "You should know this." She'd attached an internal presentation from 2 weeks before my termination. Brandon had mapped out a complete restructuring. The plan included eliminating my role regardless of performance, replacing experienced staff with cheaper recent graduates, and raising prices on long-term clients by 15% once contracts renewed. A note on slide 12 read, "Relationship-dependent business model presents significant risk. Need to transition to system-dependent model to maximize margins." They hadn't fired me because I was underperforming. They'd fired me because I was succeeding in a way that didn't fit their spreadsheet vision. More disturbing was a list of team reduction targets. Keith, Janice, and 3 others from my division marked for termination once I was gone. I printed the document and sat at the kitchen table. Jennifer read over my shoulder. "They were planning to dismantle everything you built," she said quietly, "and blame any fallout on me." I added, "My phone buzzed. Another text from Brandon. Board meeting tomorrow. Need to discuss reconciliation ASAP. Please call." I set the phone down and looked again at the last slide. Projected revenue after all changes, 22% higher margins, assuming all clients stayed, despite price hikes and cut service. It was a house of cards. I called Daniel at Summit Ridge. "I'm interested in your offer. With one condition," I said. "I want to bring my core team. 5 people total." "Done," he answered without hesitation. "When can you start?" 2 weeks. "And I'll need official offer letters for all of us today." That evening I called Keith, then Janice, then the others. I explained everything: the termination, the restructuring plan, their names on the cut list. I told them about Summit Ridge's offer. All 5 said yes immediately. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. I didn't return Brandon's calls or emails. Instead, I scheduled meetings with our top clients, not to poach them, but just to check in. I met Diane from Suncoast for lunch near her office. "We're not renewing with Northrise," she said before even looking at the menu. "The question is where we go next." "I can't solicit your business right now," I explained. "Legally, I need be careful." She smiled. "Understand. But hypothetically, if you were working somewhere that offered similar services, we'd be very interested in following you." By week's end, I'd had similar conversations with all 5 major clients. None had received a single call for Brandon or anyone else at Northrise trying to preserve the relationship. Meanwhile, Summit Ridge sent formal offer letters to my team. One by one, they submitted their resignations at Northrise. The following Monday, Brandon showed up at my house unannounced. I was in the garage working on my old Chevy when he pulled into the driveway in his Mercedes. "We need to talk, Ethan," he said, anxiety clear on his face. "This has gone too far. The board's breathing down my neck. Key team members resigning, clients threatening to leave." "Sounds challenging," I replied, wiping my hands on a rag. "Unfortunately, I've accepted a position elsewhere." His face flushed. "You're joining a competitor. That violates your non-compete. Summit Ridge isn't on the restricted list in my contract. Paul Henderson confirmed it yesterday." "You're talking to lawyers now?" "Ethan, be reasonable. Whatever they're offering, we'll beat it." I closed the hood of my truck. "It's not about the money, Brandon. It never was." "Then what do you want? Name it." I looked at him directly. For the first time, I wanted respect for 14 years of building something that worked. I wanted a conversation, not a 10-minute dismissal in a boardroom filled with buzzwords. I wanted my team protected, not quietly marked for elimination to pad someone's quarterly forecast. Brandon's expression shifted as it hit him. I knew about the restructuring plan. That was just a draft, he said quickly, trying to recover. A scenario planning exercise. Goodbye, Brandon, I said and walked past him toward the house. He called after me. The board will fight this. We'll sue you, Summit Ridge, everyone involved. I turned back one last time. You could try. But before you do, ask yourself this. What will cost your shareholders more? Letting me walk away quietly? Or launching a public legal battle, explaining why your top talent and your biggest clients all walked out the door within a month of each other? He had no answer for that. A week later, I started my first day at Summit Ridge. 2 weeks after that, the non-compete period expired. And within the month, 4 of Northrise's 5 major accounts had signed new deals with Summit Ridge. All of them requested me by name as their account manager. I hadn't reached out to any of them. I never made a single sales pitch. I never spoke badly about Northrise, not in the press, not on LinkedIn, not even in private conversations. I didn't have to. 6 months in my new role, I was reviewing Q2 numbers in my new office when Daniel knocked on the door. "You'll want to see this," he said, handing over his tablet. It was a news article. Headline: CEO Brandon Kerr steps down amid financial shortfall. The piece detailed how Northrise Apparel had missed its projections by 18%. The Eastern Division, my old territory, had lost nearly 40% of its business. The board had accepted Brandon's resignation effective immediately. I handed the tablet back without saying a word. "You don't seem surprised," Daniel noted. "It's hard to build loyalty with spreadsheets," I replied. Later that day, I got a LinkedIn message from Thomas, Northrise's CFO. "The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss recovery strategies. Your name came up. Would you consider a conversation?" I didn't answer. Instead, I finalized a quarterly presentation for Sun Coast Financial. Our team had delivered their new uniform rollout 2 weeks ahead of schedule. The client feedback? Overwhelmingly positive. Diane had already referred us to 2 other partners in her network. Momentum was building. The next day, Jerry Campbell called me. "Thought you'd want to know," he said. "Kestrel Group is looking to offload Northrise. The stock's down 22% since you left. Any buyers?" "That's the thing. None yet. Word is they're trying to get a message to you through back channels. They think you're the only one who can stabilize client relations." I thanked him for the heads up and went back to work. That afternoon, we took the team out for lunch to celebrate back-to-back quarters of growth. Keith shared early sketches for a new product line. Janice updated everyone on client satisfaction metrics. We discussed expansion plans for Summit Ridge. Nobody even brought up Northrise. But that evening, a message came through. From Eleanor Barnes, chair of Northrise's board. Subject line: Critical opportunity. "Ethan, the situation has become untenable. We made a grave error in judgment. The board would like to extend a formal invitation for you to return as CEO. Complete autonomy. Significant equity. A seat on the board. Name your terms." I stared at the email, then closed my laptop without replying. The next morning, I called a meeting with my core team. "I've been approached by Northrise," I said simply. "They want me to return. Full authority, top-level comp. But I wanted you to hear it from me first. I'm declining." Keith nodded. "Figured they'd try eventually." Janice smiled. "Too little, too late." "Exactly," I said. "We're building something better here. Something grounded in relationships, not quarterly forecasts." That afternoon, I finally replied to Eleanor. My message was brief and clear. "Thank you for your offer, but I've moved on, and so has the industry. I wish you all the best." I hit send and turned back to the work in front of me. Not because I needed revenge, but because we'd already built something real, and this time it was ours. I appreciate the offer, but I have to decline. I'm fully committed to my current role, and I genuinely wish Northrise the best going forward. 3 days later, the news broke. Summit Ridge Outfitters had acquired Northrise Apparel's Eastern Division in a quiet strategic asset purchase. The press release framed it positively, reuniting key talent with long-standing client relationships. But the truth was clear between the lines. Daniel had negotiated the deal quietly and efficiently, paying pennies on the dollar for what had once been Northrise's proudest achievement. The board had no real choice. It was either sell to us or watch the whole division collapse under the weight of their own decisions. I never had to strike back. The market handled that for me. 1 year to the day after my termination, I found myself driving past the old Eastern Division office. The Northrise sign was gone. In its place, a sleek New Summit Ridge logo hung above the front doors. The building itself looked unchanged. Same glass panels, same landscaping, but inside, everything was different. We brought back some of the staff Brandon had cut loose during his short reign. We'd earned the trust of 3 more clients whose accounts had slipped after my departure. The division, once left for dead, was now generating more revenue under Summit Ridge than it ever had under Northrise. I parked across the street and watched for a while as employees streamed out for the day. Some faces I knew well, others were new, but they all looked engaged, energized, proud to be part of something. When I got home, Jennifer was in the kitchen, apron dusted with flour. I drove by the old office today, I told her. She studied my expression before answering. Nostalgia or closure? Closure, I said. Did you know it's been exactly a year? She nodded. That's why I made your favorite tonight. Over dinner, our son Dylan called from Seattle, full of excitement about a new architectural project he'd just landed. After he finished sharing the details, he asked, "How's your new job going, Dad?" I paused, letting the warmth in his voice settle. "Good," I said. "Feels like I'm finally building something that'll last." It was the same phrase I'd used for 14 years at Northrise, but for the first time, I knew it was real. Later that evening, a message lit up my phone. Jerry Campbell again. Northrise just got sold off, completely. Gravora Group bought the remaining divisions. Clean sweep. Nothing left of the original company. I set my phone down and stepped out onto the deck. The spring air was soft and full of life. Somewhere in the trees, a robin chirped its evening song. I thought about Brandon for a brief moment. I hoped he'd learned something from all of it, though deep down, I doubted he had. I thought about the long nights, the missed family events, the early flights, and last-minute client dinners. The sacrifices have been real, but so were the relationships. And in the end, those relationships followed me, not because I demanded it, but because we'd built something authentic, something that mattered. No spreadsheet could capture that. No restructuring could erase it. The next morning, I arrived early at Summit Ridge. I sat in my office reviewing our quarterly projections, now 30% above target. Our client retention, 97%. The highest in company history. Daniel stopped by my door with a grin. "Board approved your proposal," he said. "Employee ownership starts next quarter. Keith and Janice will lead implementation." I nodded. "They'll do it right." He paused at the doorframe. "You know, Ethan, when we brought you on, we thought we were just hiring a smart executive and a bunch of great client accounts. Turns out, we got something a lot more valuable. A new way of doing business," I said. "Relationships over transactions. Always." After he left, I opened my bottom desk drawer and pulled out the fishing trophy Vector Properties had given me all those years ago. After that huge uniform rollout we pulled off under budget and ahead of schedule. I dusted it off and placed it on my shelf beside the new team photos we'd taken at Summit Ridge last month. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need an apology. I just needed the chance to build something better, something rooted in people, purpose, and pride. This time I had it, and this time I wasn't letting it go.